So this is my twin text assignment for Education 385. For this assignment, I decided to use the two books. The first one is Martin's Big Words, The Life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which was written by Doreen Rappaport, and then it was also illustrated by Brian Collier. And then the second book was Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, which was written by Mildred D. Taylor. So, the publishing information, the first book was Scholastic and the second one was Puffin. And then the standards that I decided to focus on for the Martin Luther King Jr. book was 811, and then it mostly focused on like the fifth component of the standard, which was understanding the 13th, 14th, and 5th Amendments to the Constitution and analyzing their connection to Reconstruction. And then for the other book, I did standard number 3 under 811, which was understand the effects of the Freedmen's Bureau and the restrictions placed on the rights and opportunities of freedom, including racial segregation and Jim Crow laws. So the topic of the first book would be like the importance and significance of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments and what people did to ensure the freedom and equality for humans. So by looking through this book, you can kind of see it tells you like what Martin Luther King did to try and stop segregation. And then the second book is just like it would give students like a more of like a real life experience to a family that actually went through this time period and what they dealt with. The book grade level for the first one said that it could be used in preschool to about 5th grade, and then the second one was 6th to 8th. But obviously, I focused on the 8th grade standards, so I think that you could use them for all those grade levels. And then this was just like an overview of both of the books, like I had stated earlier, how the first book kind of goes over Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and how he grew up, what inspired him, the types of things that he went through, the actions that he took to help end segregation. And then the other book, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, is a story about the Logan family and their experience with segregation and kind of like how they tried to fight it and overcome it. So I said that I would use Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry first. It would give them a chance to understand the concepts of Jim Crow and segregation. They connect the story to feelings and characters so that they would have a different understanding of these concepts throughout history. They could expand on this later and do deeper level thinking. The second book I said I would use later because it talks about the protests that revolved around segregation, which came after the first book anyway. So it would be a fun and easy way for students to be introduced to Martin Luther King Jr. if they're not particularly familiar with him. And then the book could be used to expand on the topic as well, and you could introduce other characters that helped with, trying to get rid of segregation as well. And then you could also even go further into civil rights and talk about the different types of civil rights that from that time period we now have because of what people have tried to do for history and people and all of that. One of the activities that I said that I would do with the first book, you could create charts about significant people during the civil rights era, kind of like what I was talking about in the one above it. You could start with Martin Luther King Jr. and just kind of list all his accomplishments and go through the book. It's a really easy book. It's like it has a lot of pictures, so that's why I thought that it would be a good thing to use because the pictures are so vivid and you can just get a real like representation of the times. So you can use the simple facts that the book gives you, but you can also look up online and read more into it and just kind of see his past and then do that with other figures in civil rights and just kind of compare and see what they did, how they did it, and those kind of aspects. And then I also said to ask students what civil rights means to them at the end of the unit and asked the students to create a poster that shows what civil rights means to them using one-word phrases and pictures. And then for the second one, I would have students keep a journal entry on how they felt about, or how they thought that the characters felt throughout the book. And then you could also have them reflect on the chapter, and I put specific questions like, what was the most significant event to you during that chapter? If you were the Logan family, how would that situation make you feel? Do you think that these characters did the right things? And then to explain them. And then these are the English language arts standards that I decided to focus on. So for the first book, I focused mostly on writing. So both of the content standards came from the writing portion of the 8th grade standards. So I said using technology, including the internet, to produce and publish writing and present the relationships between information and ideas efficiently, as well as to interact and collaborate with others. So I brought that up because in the first activity that I said to have them look things up, and then because you're looking things up, you can collaborate with students and come up with ideas and see what they found, see what you found type thing. And then I also said to conduct short research projects to answer a question, which also refers to the above as well. And then for Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, which is this column, I focused on reading, but I also did a writing one as well. So I said 8.2, which is to determine a theme or central idea of a text and analyze its development over the course of the text, including its relationship to the character, setting, and plot. Provide an objective summary of the text. And then the other one was for writing. Write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, relevant descriptive details, and well-structured event sequences, and then use narrative techniques such as dialogue, pacing, description, and reflection to develop experiences, events, and or characters. So I picked this one because I felt that the book gives them like firsthand experience into these events, so they can reflect on those and imagine how they would feel in those type of circumstances, and kind of like relate it to their life now, and kind of compare like how life was then and how life was now. So yeah, that's my twin text assignment.